Can we do the intro because we're running?
Yeah, man.
Yes. How do you do the intro?
So it's
Welcome back, Inebri-arts.
Yeah, so like that's the interesting thing is like I hate that intro. But
is that actually your intro? Because I've never listened
pretty much
to the podcast.
it's Welcome Back, Inebri-art.
Oh.
And I don't like doing because so like when we started doing this, it was like we would just start recording.
Yeah.
And start having a conversation, and then like 20 minutes in, the person would be like, "Are you recording right now?" And you'd be like, "Yeah, man."
Yeah, I remember that happened on a lot.
But then you can't really do that on Zoom, and we do so much on Zoom now that it's like you almost need
an intro.
I think an intro makes it more like I don't want to listen to a couple dudes have a conversation, but if there's an intro, I'll listen to it. It's a podcast.
See, I find it like the second you do the intro, people act differently.
What does that mean?
Because they're like, "Oh, I'm
then
being
like,
interviewed."
Oh, now I'm being interviewed.
You know,
now
opposed to
I need
just being like, not like super differently, but enough.
like
enough where it's like.
So they like don't say anything incriminating.
The only time we've ever had someone say something where they're like, "Hey man," actually twice it's happened where they're like, "Can you go take that out?" It's 3 times. One time someone got like really upset because they mispronounced or forgot someone's name, and then not like in like a famous person, not like their friend, like they were trying to like quote someone or whatever, and then they fixed it, whatever. But like insisted we go back and change it. But then we've had 2 times where people like said stuff that they're like, "Hey, can you go and take that out? Because we really shouldn't have said that."
Yeah.
And it's like there's a microphone sitting right in front of you, and it's halfway through. Like you're being recorded now.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had people say things. Actually,
there was one
kind of happens a lot. Think about it.
There was one clip I put on TikTok, and you were like, "Hey, can you take that down? He doesn't want that up." And I was like,
"Oh yeah." Well,
I don't even remember what it was.
It was Jordan, and he didn't want it up. I didn't mean to send it to you. That was part of it. And it was, he said something and he's like, "Oh, my wife won't appreciate me saying that." So, yeah. So we've had a wife won't appreciate me saying that. We had a band shit talk someone they worked with.
Ooh. Can we shit talk?
I prefer if you did. So here's the thing.
Can we, follow-up question.
Okay.
Can we shit talk fish?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
Absolutely. So, like, our general rule for shit talking is if you have something to say badly, it's like, "I was in this place," or "There's this guy I knew." So you shit talk in the vague.
Mm-hmm. Unless it's fish.
Unless it's fish. You can shit talk fish as much as you want.
I don't like how some of the foams go that way and some of them go up and down.
I like it. I did it specifically that way. Although there's one that's fucked up.
I was just looking.
Oh, but I fucked up too to make it look like I did it on purpose.
Oh, okay. So that was because I was like, "Where's
Are you talking about the green ones or the black ones?
the green ones?"
Oh, yeah.
Because I was.
So there's these 2 that are sideways? Is because I put this one up.
Because I was looking at these 2 bottom rows and I was like, "That looks nice." And then I looked at the top row and I was like, "What?"
Because I was gonna make them consistent, like all going in the same direction, and then I fucked up. And
I thought you were talking about the black ones.
Yeah.
I misheard you say the green ones. I just blacked that part out. And
she didn't. She just said one goes one way and the other goes the other.
Well, no, you asked.
So if those fall off, then I'll put them back.
Okay.
Yeah. But this makes great podcasting, talking about things that people can see.
Are we being recorded?
We are.
Girl, we're supposed to do an intro.
Go ahead.
Well, there's the intro.
It's waiting on you.
What do I call them?
What do you call who?
The fans. Your devoted fans.
I don't know. It's 400 episodes. We call them Inebri-arts.
It's 400. I meant to ask that before we started. I couldn't remember what the big milestone was.
400.
Oh my god! Congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay.
I feel like she's gonna do the intro, and that will actually just by definition be the outro. Go.
Welcome.
And action.
I don't like that you guys are looking at me.
All right, look. Did you see the foam on the wall? Don't look.
I'm not looking.
I'm looking longingly into Liam's eyes.
Okay,
Maybe not longingly.
Welcome back, everybody, to the to the Take two, Liam.
Take two.
Fish edits these, right?
Nope.
I mean, he might. Who knows?
What does that mean?
So like,
I thought he was the editor.
I know, but the part where you call him will probably get edited out. So we're just gonna have to do it constantly.
I didn't call him.
What'd you call him? Oh, sorry.
But you gave me permission to say that.
Yeah, no. Because I should.
It would be very funny.
All the time.
It would be very funny if he didn't and just uploaded the raw, unedited podcast.
But he has to edit out every time I mess up.
I can't guarantee that.
Dude.
You're gonna have to ask him.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to have strong words with that fish.
I mean, pretty much what he edits out is the ums. Yeah.
I literally. I don't know if you were here 3 seconds ago. I just did a fuck ton of those.
Yeah, well, I mean, he might have left those in because I found that very funny.
That is very funny.
I didn't because my brain short-circuited. I can't do... I kind of get it now why you don't do intros.
They just...
It's hard to do.
It's kind of... Like, I don't mind doing the Old Colony Cast one. That one's kind of easy.
What's the Old Colony Cast?
The Old Colony Cast is Welcome Back to the Old Colony Cast, a podcast about all things Plymouth and surrounding areas.
You could do that intro.
I'm here with my host.
I could do that.
I'm here with other host, Hannah.
Okay.
And then I insert a quasi-topical...
Yeah,
because sometimes it's just an inside joke to me.
A joke for one.
Addition, like when I introduce Fish as the editor, you know.
Instead of the host. Is he a host on that one?
Yeah, but I mean, I just kind of always just refer to him as...
in my head, he's the editor for everything.
So I'll be like, for this, I'd be like, oh, our absentee editor, Fish, because he's not here.
Yeah.
So, I always have, something, to stick in front of him.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And then they're usually both like, you didn't introduce yourself. I'm like, I didn't.
I can do that.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Inebri-art podcast, the podcast about everything Inebri-art. This is my other host, Leland.
Hello.
I'm Zoe. Today's a big day. Leland, do you know what day it is?
I happen to know what big day it is.
It's the 400th episode of the Inebri-art podcast. And to celebrate, we are interviewing the man himself, John Inebri-art of the Inebri-art.
John Inebri-art?
Of the
That's the best you can come up with? John Ichabod Inebri-art? Go for alliteration.
John Inebri-art of Inebri-art podcasts.
Oh.
How do you feel, John?
It's a great day.
It's got to be a big honor. 400.
I couldn't have done it without Jesus.
John's religious.
John Inebri-art is. Andy Driscoll isn't.
No. I think Andy's atheist.
That's true.
Because you like alliteration.
That is the only reason why, yeah. And I just got to interview a fairly famous atheist that I was like, so it's 400 episodes. It was one of the few times that I was kind of actually fanboying a little bit, where I was kind of like, oh, I sounded really stupid just then. I wish I didn't say that. Because he's a host of one of my favorite podcasts.
I think you've told me about it before.
Eli Bosnick?
I think you've told me about him before.
I think the last time we were here, you told us about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? I feel like I've heard that plenty of time. Way more.
Oh, that was on Father's Day when you called me a bitch.
Right.
Which I've told that story to so many
Girl,
people.
I don't know if you know this.
I haven't. And
the
I'm
response
so
to every single one is, "That's so your kid."
No, but I don't know if you know this. You know the other day when you kept butt dialing me? Well, I say you did it once and then you...
Oh, then I did it again purposely. Was I telling that story?
I have a voicemail, a 2-minute long voicemail of you telling some anonymous woman that story. Which I was so confused because I didn't get to answer it because I was busy. But then I got the voicemail and I was like, oh, it must be important if he left a voicemail. And I listened to it and there's so much shuffling. And then I was like, I don't think he meant to call me, but he's talking some mad shit right now.
I wasn't talking mad shit because it's a funny story.
It is the funny story.
Yeah.
I can't
And
believe
almost
I
everyone
haven't
is like,
told
yeah,
anybody
that's so
that.
your kid.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, should we mention that we're your kids?
I mean, you're the host.
We're the offspring.
We're your kids. We're the offspring.
See, like, if you were a real host, you'd be like, oh, how do we know each other?
Am I supposed to ask you questions yet?
I don't know.
I don't
You
know.
can do-
You do you. Boo.
Girl, listen, this is a 2-host train. I can't be carrying this.
Listen, I'm adding to the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I am filling in for Fish today as the...
The mumbly guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the mumbler.
The mumbly autistic guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every podcast needs at least one.
That's not a question.
Okay. I was actually thinking about this. This was actually genuinely a question that I was like cooking up. I need you to rank top 3 favorite Muppets from the original The Muppet Show.
Oh. Interesting.
I know.
Okay. That's a tough question.
I know.
That's like a way harder question.
I did not think that's where you were going. You said genuinely...
Because
cooking
it was,
up, I'm
I
like,
was...
oh, you're going to ask him, like, some of his, like, favorite podcast episodes.
No,
like,
I was thinking
episodes
about
of
this.
this.
Because am I talking too loud?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
I'm
I was-
probably
I'd rather you talk
quiet.
too loud and I have to turn you down.
Okay.
But it might be me. I think it's me.
Because I don't have like anything prepped and prepared, but I have like a couple floaty
Welcome to the
questions.
Inebri-art podcast.
I know. But I have a couple floaty questions, and that was one of them.
See, I feel like if you asked any normal human being, they
It's-
would be like, I can think of 3. And I'm like, oh my God. And like, so we're
I
talking
can
about
think
the
about
original show.
300.
Yeah.
Oh God.
My friend asked me once around Christmas
Yeah.
who my favorite Muppet was, and I was like,
You,
I can give you top 5 minimum, and then I gave her like 6, and then I did that to Leland.
yeah.
Now I'm blanking on his name.
Who?
I probably know the name.
The Muppaphone guy.
Oh,
Thank you. That guy.
yeah.
It's not Scuggs.
No.
Liam knows all the Muppets.
I'm blanking on his name, too. What the heck? I know exactly
my
what you're
phone's over
talking
there
about,
charging. You have to. You're fish on this show. You need to do the research.
Oh.
Okay.
Go fish. That was so funny. Dude, watch
That's
him edit that
hysterical.
out.
What, the go fish part?
That's,
Yeah.
That's what I did earlier when I said
If he
go
edits
fish.
out anything, it's not going to be you saying go fish. It's going to be all the smack we talk about him in general.
We would
Wait,
never talk
okay.
smack about him.
Muppaphone
Is that a wink?
guy.
You can't
Yes.
wink on a podcast, man. That doesn't work.
Marvin
No,
Suggs.
Marvin Suggs. Scuggs. That was pretty close.
Can I see? I just hit my mic. The mic hit me. Can I see what he looks like?
Yeah, it's the guy with the Muppaphone.
Yeah.
Oh, is he your top favorite?
He. I don't know. He's again. I think I can only do like the top 5, like ordering them.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Ordering
depend
him,
on-
yeah.
Depend on my mood. It's not like my kids. I can put my kids in the order.
Oh, we know.
The snail, and then
Yeah.
Let's see. So him. I do like Fozzie very much.
I think Fozzie ended up in my top 5. I don't
Yeah.
remember.
I think he was also in my top 5.
He's really good.
I gave
Muppet.
2. When you asked me, I gave 2 top 5s.
I know. Liam gave me like.
I'm a nerd.
See, I'm gonna break your rule a little bit because I'm gonna put Pepe in there. Because even though he's new, I still feel like
He's not from the original?
No.
He's not.
Really?
No.
I don't think
gives
he was
a lot
ever-
of-
He gives original vibes.
Yeah,
I don't
he
think he was
does.
ever on the show. I think him and Rizzo, I think, were only ever in like the movies.
Really?
Rizzo.
They may have used Rizzo as like generic rat number 2.
Yeah, there were
Yeah.
rats on the show, but I don't
But-
ever remember them giving him a specific name.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the movies came along. But yeah, I like Pepe a lot.
I didn't know Pepe wasn't
Fozzie.
from the original show.
Yeah, no.
He's an exception, though, because he definitely feels like he is.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
You got your list.
I think Sweetums is pretty great.
Yeah.
I like Sweetums. Sweetums reminds me of Liam.
And then I'm going to deviate again a little bit because they're Muppets by definition.
Are you going to bring up a Sesame Street character?
The yips.
Oh,
Yip,
okay.
yip, 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 yip,
Yeah.
yip, yip. Those guys.
I don't know those guys.
They're the
I do know
aliens.
those
Yeah.
guys. I'm trying to find my Muppet list.
I found mine.
Oh, crap. The two-headed monsters on Sesame
those
Street,
guys.
too. Those were great, too.
Oh, oh my gosh.
Pepe was in my top 2. Oh, my God.
Why am I blanking on their names?
Who?
The two-headed monster?
The two-headed monster from Sesame Street.
Oh, I don't know the
can't
Sesame Street Muppets too well.
They definitely were a lot stronger before Elmo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying like Elmo ruined
Okay.
Sesame Street, but like he became such the focal point that
Yeah.
like
Yeah, he became the Muppet.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's fine, whatever.
I did find my... Because I gave an overall top 5. When I was asked this question, I gave an overall top 5 and a personal top 5.
Yeah, he gave like a
What?
top 5 like most like
What I
iconic
think, like,
Muppets.
When you think the Muppets, what I think are like the top...
Oh.
So like
Muppets.
Kermit,
So
Miss
Kermit,
Piggy,
Miss Piggy, Fozzie.
Swedish Chef.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Swedish Chef... My like overall like top 5 Muppets in order from first to fifth was Kermit, Piggy, Fozzie, Gonzo, Animal.
Yep.
Mine was in no order. It was Fozzie, Uncle Deadly, Pepe, Crazy Harry, and Animal.
I love Crazy Harry.
I love Crazy Harry.
Crazy Harry and Uncle Deadly, Deadly?
Deadly?
I think it's Deadly.
Were
Yeah.
both like I just feel like Uncle Deadly isn't used enough.
I definitely think he's not like, because like Uncle Deadly's in my top strictly because of like his design and his vibe and like his part.
Yeah.
Not
for
really
sure.
because of his funky, swanky little personality like Fozzie Bear.
Yeah.
He's more of like an aesthetic pick.
I think, if I remember correctly, because there's a YouTuber, Defunct Land, who did a 6-part Jim Henson
We're promoting my
documentary.
podcast today, not someone else's.
I'm
It's
sorry.
not a podcast, it's a YouTube channel.
But I really like it, and I've
Yeah.
watched it tons of times. I think Uncle Deadly, I originally had a different name, but I don't remember.
He was the Phantom of the
Yeah.
theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in like the original like pilot that they ever filmed,
Oh yeah.
Muppet Sex and Violence.
Yeah.
Uncle Deadly was supposed to be like a main character in like the
That sounds very
in
familiar.
like the original idea for
Yeah.
a Muppet TV show.
Yeah, I do remember that. It was very weird.
And then we got off track, but my personal 5.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Tell me
I
more
had
about
to-
you, Liam.
I had to because we all included Pepe,
Yeah.
and then I also included Fozzie, Swedish Chef, Sam Eagle, and Gonzo.
Gonzo's a good one.
What would be? Well,
Who's asking
you're
the
dating
questions
someone.
here?
You're gonna like this question.
Okay.
So you're dating
I'll
someone,
let it slide.
but let's hypothetically say you're not,
Okay.
and you meet someone at a bar
Uh-huh.
or wherever.
I don't go to bars.
Well, I don't know.
I'm
I
only
don't,
20.
I don't know where kids go to meet people. What would if like you're like, oh, what's your favorite Muppet?
Because
that's what you do.
That's what
pickup
kids
line.
do.
But like, what would be like the red flag Muppet? They'd be like, ugh, I don't like you.
I have to think about
See,
that.
it's a good question.
It is a good
That is a
question.
good question.
Do you have an answer?
I feel like if they liked Sam the Eagle unironically,
True.
and I
Like,
don't,
didn't get the joke of Sam the
yeah,
Eagle?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I like Miss Piggy as her role, but like if your favorite character was Miss Piggy, I'd be like, ugh.
Yeah.
I feel like you might be a little obnoxious.
Those are some strong answers.
Yeah, because she's kind of, she's not the villain, but she's kind of the foil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
She's Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I could think of an answer.
Me neither.
Like, other than those two, because I really
I mean,
can't
you
think of,
raised
like,
really
anybody.
good points. I feel like my final answer would probably be somebody who likes Sam the Eagle but doesn't get the joke because that says a lot about you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, what's the joke? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's patriotic and stuff.
Suspicious.
Yeah, I feel like other than those two, there really isn't any, like...
All Muppets were created equally. They're all equally lovable and funny, except for Miss Piggy and Sam the Eagle.
Sam the Eagle, like, you can totally dig Sam the Eagle
Sam is...
if you get the joke.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Honestly, my first thought was like if somebody's favorite is Kermit because they only know Muppets at like a surface level value, so they only know like
So they could name 3 and then they'd be like, oh.
and they're like, I guess I like Kermit. I'd be
Yeah.
like, ugh. But also, after watching you know, the Muppet Show documentaries and the Muppet Show, I'm like, but Kermit is so Jim Henson. That's him.
It is.
And so, like, I love Kermit so deeply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's weird.
I get it.
But also I say that as if I'm not actively dating someone who only knows the Muppet Show at, like, surface level.
Well, I feel like you guys are atypical with your Muppet knowledge.
What's that supposed to mean?
That I made you watch the Muppets a lot when you were little.
I know. I think Liam's, like, special interest is the Muppet Show.
Yeah. Because it's great.
No
It's very
complaints,
good.
though. I get so much Muppet information.
It's like perfect and wholesome and sort of subversive at the same time. It's like that perfect. Yeah.
And I feel like it's a good show because it's one of those shows that's entertaining and appropriate for kids, but you're not, as an adult, you're not gonna like lose your mind watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the guests were not
Like-
kid guests.
Yeah,
you know?
when
like
we
Paul
wa-
Simon. Like
When we watched it as kids, I didn't know who those people were. I just knew that they had little puppets around them.
Yeah.
I remember specifically. So I was rocking Liam to sleep, and so he was old enough that he had to be rocked to sleep.
So like 22.
Yeah, it was like 2 years
something
ago.
like that.
And I wanted to find something on TV that wouldn't hold his attention and make him stay awake, but at the same time not be so adult that it was like scary or
Violent
or whatever. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles came on.
I don't know what that
You
is.
should watch that movie. It's amazing. I don't know if you know that.
I mean, he watched it 2 years ago when you walked him to sleep.
But like in all of a sudden in the middle, he's like kind of like, you know, he's got his little blankie and stuff. He was cute.
As he does.
And then he went, "Oh, that's Steve Martin." And I'm like, "Oh shit. You're not supposed to be watching this."
Yeah, I think it says a lot from like a very young age that like visually at least that like Alice Cooper was like one of my favorites,
Yeah.
like musicians.
Just because he was on the Muppet Show, though.
because he was like the coolest Muppet Show episode.
It was
when
a
I
really
was a
cool
kid.
episode. I liked him and Elton John.
Elton John's
Elton
really
John,
cool.
Yeah.
that is a good one.
I feel like the Elton John episode and the Alice Cooper episode together perfectly like encapsulate me as a person.
Really interesting.
Because
I guess the Alice Cooper visual aesthetic.
exactly, but then on the
inside, you're
inside,
just
you get me so well. On the inside, I'm like colorful and sparkly.
I was gonna say you're a gay British man.
Yes, correct.
I really like the Paul Simon one.
that one's really good.
Partly because they just did his music on
Yeah.
that. I think
Which one's Paul Simon?
he's very short.
He did like the weird like medieval like
The Scarborough Fair.
yeah, bit with
Okay.
like Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I can send it to you later.
You
Then,
probably will.
I'll find it.
The Carol Burnett one was great. I think she wrote it. She ends up dressed up like a banana at the end.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
And because I think the whole thing was like she wrote it as because she really wanted to be on the show, but the premise of the episode was that she really didn't want to be on the show. And was
I
doing-
remember
yeah,
that
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I get it.
And it's just like such a good.
I didn't know she wrote that one. That's really funny.
Oh
that
my
she wrote
god!
It.
So you guys don't really know who Carol Burnett is?
No.
She had like a sketch comedy show when I was a little kid. Did you know Tim Conway?
No.
The name sounds familiar.
My god! I'm going to show you guys a Tim Conway sketch. It is one of the funniest things I ever said to. I can't. Well, look it up. It's about the elephant. You can find it on YouTube. It's fantastic.
Speaking of looking up sketches, I know you saw this, and Liam, you were there to witness it, but I think it would be funny if the viewers knew that I was looking for like a very specific niche sketch on the Muppet Show, and I couldn't find it because there's just like this little tube guy
Oh yes,
who's dancing around, and then Liam found it within literally under 5 minutes.
I showed it. I was talking to my friends about it, and I pulled it up. I was able to find the sketch within a couple minutes after you sending it to me.
Yeah, because
And the only reason it took me like 5 minutes to send it back to you is because I sat and watched the sketch.
I was gonna say the timestamp is less than 5 minutes, and it takes like a minute to send a text.
Yeah.
So that means he found it in like maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah, I can pull it up again because I remember. So you texted me.
Well, you can't show it to the people. They
I
can't.
can't,
see
but
it.
I can time-wise. At 6:10 on a Saturday, you messaged me a very crude drawing of the Muppet in it.
That was pretty good.
It is a good
you.
drawing, but it's just
I got
Because
the.
we both knew exactly what.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I had the picture in my head. I was like, I know what he looks like.
Yeah.
yeah. At 6:10 you sent that. At 6:11, I was like, oh yeah, I think I know what that is. 6:15 I sent you a link saying found
Yup.
it,
And that.
and it's like a 2-minute sketch.
So,
So I found it,
yeah.
watched it, sent it in a 5-minute span of time.
Welcome to the Inebri-art podcast, episode 400, a tribute to Muppets.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is very quickly the Muppet episode.
We've been talking a lot about Muppets.
which isn't a bad thing.
You know,
No.
I don't know if I've ever like that would be. Obviously, you can't get Jim,
Ugh, I
Unfortunate.
wish.
but like Brian Henson or Frank Oz.
Frank
One
Oz
of 'em.
or I'm blanking on the guy's name who did Gonzo. Frank Oz would probably be a better guest, but
Well, Frank
Wait.
Oz has
No
done
shade.
so much.
yeah.
What did Frank Oz? do?
Frank Oz
was
is
Fozzie.
Fozzie, Miss Piggy.
Oh, okay.
He directed Trading Spaces.
He did a lot.
He did Yoda.
He would
Yeah.
be cool.
Yeah, he'd be
Yeah.
cool.
He's done so much.
A lot of iconic things.
It was pretty much if you couldn't get Jim Henson, like if you got the Henson Company to work on something, if you didn't get Jim to do it, it was Frank Oz. I feel
Yeah.
like.
I had Bill Diamond. He'd worked. He's very specific with the Henson Company, not for. So like he kind of got like farmed out to do some stuff.
Yeah.
I think he did like I think it was in the Great Muppet Caper. I think he did like the motorcycle with the balloons or something like that.
Yeah.
Did you know that officially, canonically even, the Five Nights at Freddy's gang are Muppets because they were made
By the Henson?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, in the movie,
Yeah.
all the animatronics, which is funny because in the game, there are like these animatronic suits that can be worn or they can be set up on like robots.
Yeah.
And Jim Henson's like Creature Shop made the ones for the movie, and they made them so that they can be wearable costumes or they can like be set up on robots, which is really freaking cool.
And I suppose
And so they're
technically that
Muppets.
makes Miss Piggy a Disney princess
Why?
because Disney owns the Muppets.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I thought you were tying it back to Five Nights at Freddy's, and I was confused. I
No,
was
I'm
like,
just thinking
Disney
like
doesn't
if
own
we
them.
overlap those kind of things. Then,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, she would be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even if she wasn't, she would insist she was.
exactly.
That's
So
why I
she-
don't really like her.
You just
I don't like her just because I'm like, oh, I know that person.
You just
Yeah.
hate powerful women.
No, I hate obnoxious people.
Yeah, that's what they all say. Okay, Liam, do you have any other? Pick another question that's not Muppet related,
Okay.
or we're gonna just keep talking about Muppets
Yeah.
for the whole episode.
I did bounce around a couple ideas.
Okay.
Like, mine were very much more, I guess, in celebration of the 400th episode.
I
Oh,
thought,
so like you were paying attention.
I
Yeah.
thought about it. That was the only off-topic one I had. Okay, but it
Okay.
was important, so it had to be.
It
the
was
first.
important.
All right.
I'm curious.
It feels on par with our show too.
In no necessarily specific amount or order, what are like some of your favorite episodes that you were able to record? Or any ones that stick out to you in particular?
There's a few, and it's interesting because there's always ones that I when people find out you podcast, you kind of start talking about it, and there's the kind of same stories always come up.
Mhm.
D. Snyder,
Yeah.
Obviously,
because I think
because he's D. Snyder.
because he's D. Snyder. If you're gonna rate people like IMDb style, he's probably the most famous person we had on,
Yeah.
and it happened so randomly, just kind of fell in my lap.
Yeah. I was talking about that with a friend of mine this past weekend at the party we were at.
Yeah,
It was someone I'm like, oh yeah, my dad interviewed D. Snyder completely out of the blue.
yeah.
Just cuz.
He was a guest at a convention that I had set up the podcast at,
Mm-hmm.
and I was
yeah, maybe. When are you gonna get us our tattoos on the Muppet topic?
Yeah, we're moved on to a different topic.
Okay, well, I was thinking of a topic so that we could chit chat and bond as a family while there was a loud noise happening.
I'm trying to answer Liam's question.
Well, answer his
I hope
question.
this
The
is
noise
kept
is
in.
gone now. Fish, edit that out.
Probably most of that'll stay.
I hope so.
So what was the question?
The
the D. Snyder thing.
Yeah.
And so someone asked me kind of like last minute, they're like, hey, we're doing a podcasting panel. Do you want to be on it? I'm like, yeah, sure. And it was the opening panel. Like the convention opened at 11. The panel started at 11. And I'm like, ugh, no one's going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I went and did the panel. It was kind of fun. There was no one there. Like we did a panel to an empty room.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And
But if it was fun, it was worth it.
sure.
Okay.
And then I came back to the table where my friend was watching the table, and she goes, so D. Snyder will be here in 10 minutes. And I'm like, what's happening? And she's like, D. Snyder's agent came over and asked all the podcast tables if they wanted to interview D. And she's like, so I said yes. And I'm like, I mean, of course you did. 10 minutes?
I don't know how, but I don't think I ever realized that was how that happened.
Yeah.
I thought you set it up. I didn't know.
No,
it was just
it
like
literally
Snyder
just
was
fell
like,
into my
hey,
lap.
girl.
I remember
Yeah.
you telling me that like his agent came up, was like, hey, do you want to talk to him?
And it didn't even say it to me, like, I
Not-
wasn't in the
yeah, not
room.
even to
I just
you.
like
Just, like,
walked
they
in
walked
and
up
they're
to
like, D.
someone
Snyder's
at
going to
the
be here in
table.
5 minutes. I'm like, great.
Let me brush my teeth.
Yeah. So that was completely out of the blue. Joey Santiago from the Pixies, because I love the Pixies, and there's so many things. Like I feel like the stories I always talk about are the stuff that never made it onto the podcast for some reason. Like when I interviewed Joey, I know they're like a local band, and this kind of goes back to that perfect point of like I hate doing the intro. Because like I did the intro, I did the outro, I stopped recording, and I'm like, oh, thanks for coming on. This was really nice, blah blah blah. And he's like, hang on, and I'm like, what? And he goes, is Cape Cod Pizza in Brockton still kick ass?
Oh, you told us about that.
Yeah. And it was just so like this guy who's probably going to get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is like just a local guy. And I was like, I prefer Venus Pizza in Whitman. And he's like, oh, they're good too. And it's like, I grew up basically next door to that. And it's just, he could have whatever he wants
Crazy.
and tours the world. And
you can't.
no, I mean, shut up. And then a very similar thing happened with Jim Mahfood, who's an illustrator, and I do like the pre-interview thing where I'm like, this is who we are and this is how we got started, and da 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 da. And I'm like, we got started as a drink and drive. He's like, I know. And I was like, what? And he's like, I know. And I'm like, what do you mean you know? And he's like, oh, I'm a big Wax Taylor fan, and you guys interviewed Wax Taylor a few months back, and a friend of mine sent me a link to your podcast. So I listened, and then I went to see who else you had on your podcast, and you had Doc Hammer. He's like, Doc's a friend of mine, so I listened to that one. He's like, so I know who you are. And I was just so flabbergasted that my only response was, what do you mean? It was so...
Trippy.
It was trippy, and it's like, I see the numbers of the downloads all the time, but to actually see a human being who's like, I listen and like your show, and you're like, oh my God, you're so weird.
That's like when Michael told me that he saw someone in public wearing one of your t-shirts. I was like, no, that's my dad. I was like, you're silly. That's just my papa. Like,
It's happened a few
one.
times where people like,
We've been in public with you before, and someone's like, oh my God, Andy. And you're just like, yeah, that's me. And he's like, I'm a huge fan. And you're like, oh.
yeah. I tell that story a lot too, because at the Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just want to say I'm a big fan and blah, blah, I'm following you online, da, da, da. And he walked off, and I just remember turning to you guys and being like, you saw that, right? That happened?
Yeah.
That wasn't in my imagination?
I still remember I was working the cash register at Roach Brothers
Oh my God, I love this story.
like around the holidays-ish. I think it was towards like the summer, so it was
Yeah.
about like the 4th or Memorial Day or something. And a woman came in line, and on like her pocketbook or something
Wasn't
had
it her
something with her.
checkbook?
Yeah, it was something. She had an old Colony Cast sticker. And I was like, oh, you listen to the old Colony Cast? And she's like, oh my God, yeah, that's awesome. I'm like, Andy's my dad. And she goes, Mike's my son.
And you were like, who's Mike?
Yeah. But knowing you, I was like, oh my God, how'd I just meet Fish's mom?
Yeah.
You should. Okay, a little side tangent idea.
Okay.
Even get Fish's mom on the podcast.
Just cuz?
Just cause. Maybe make Fish interview her.
Oh my God, I don't know how that would fit, like, maybe.
I feel like if you had Fish interview anyone, it would just be like an hour of silence.
It would be super awkward.
It would just be
awkward.
silent, and then every now and then it would just be like a.
Unless somehow they either started talking about baseball,
AEW.
Star Trek,
Well, that would be me and Fish.
Dude.
wrestling for sure.
A podcast with Fish and Liam. You should.
No, we're told we can't.
Oh.
We're told. Fish is like, I'm not editing any more podcast. I mean,
But what if
we
he's
put out
on
8
it?
episodes. He still has to edit it. I'm not editing it. Bullshit.
Okay, well,
that's
get
my
Liam to
job.
edit.
But he
I
just
don't
doesn't
know.
want to
Yeah.
edit anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we put out 8 episodes a month. It's a lot.
That poor guy. Moment of silence for Fish.
He's not dead yet. I haven't murdered him, officer. I have an alibi.
Okay.
Yeah.
My snail saw me. Some girl last night stopped at the British Beer Company to see my friend Jeff play. And this girl I know, I think she started talking about her dog. I started talking about my snail. And you could just see it like in her eyes being like...
Well, this is actually kind of funny. I was working. I think the other day, you sent a picture of Terry.
Terry the
snail.
Terrarium Snail. You
Yeah.
guys can follow him on Instagram at Terry Terrarium Snail.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Yeah, he's got it.
I'm following
I did not know that.
It's like 3 days old.
Okay.
I can send it to you later if you
Yeah.
want.
Or I could
It's
just look
at
it up.
Terry
Yeah, whatever.
Terry Terrarium Snail.
Okay.
That's kind of a tongue twister.
Yeah, it is. But I was at work, and you sent a picture of him because he's gotten so big, and you named him and all that fun stuff. But I saw a photo, and then you said something like, "Oh, meet the newest like member of like the Driscoll family" or something like that. And I looked at the photo really fast, and it was just little on my screen, and it almost looked like a golden doodle. So I started to freak out. I was like, Dad got a dog. I flipped out, and then like 5 minutes later, when I got to check my phone, I was like, "It's fucking snail."
Terry, cover your ears. Do snails have
Snails
ears?
do not have ears. Snails also don't have genders. They're hermaphrodites.
Yeah, but they have. He's got. You can see his antenna now.
Mm-hmm. Those are where his eyes are.
Yeah,
And
I
his
called him
one
antlers last night.
Antlers?
Antlers.
Girl.
foot. It's close enough.
Yeah.
Same fucking thing.
You should give him cucumbers. They like that.
So he was eating a mushroom in there the other day. He's been nibbling on my plants.
I told you if you don't feed him, he's going to eat your plants.
I know.
Girl.
Well, right now he's small, so like.
Yeah,
whatever.
but once he gets bigger, he's going to
Yeah.
eat that whole thing.
Yeah, so I'll have to get him some grub.
Get him a Lunchable. Okay.
So did I answer your question?
I think so.
It was yeah.
It was just like
Like, what are your, like,
some of the big episodes you really like.
yeah.
I
yeah.
guess.
I think you answered.
Yeah,
it.
there was those,
Yeah.
and then there's the one that is kind of like to this day, kind of still is weird. Wow, I'm a shit. I can't remember his last name. His first name's Kenny. It was an early episode,
Yeah.
and good artist. He used to come to our figure drawings, and we brought him in. He was basically like, yeah, he's like, I credit Inebri-art with helping me stay off heroin, and I was like,
Damn.
what?
Wow.
Don't put that on me.
That's crazy.
That's
and it was
wild.
just kind of like, he's like, yeah, and he's like, I had just gotten out of like rehab, and that's when I found figure drawing, and gave me like something to positively.
I mean, that's sweet, but
it was super
a
sweet,
lot of
but
pressure,
I was,
girl.
yeah, I was like, wow, okay, thanks, I love you, and
I love you,
be
please
good
don't
to
do
yourself,
drugs.
and and we kind of lost touch, but when we first lost touch, like after,
Did
I
you
don't know,
get
like the first-
scared?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Like I sent him
Yeah,
multiple
I could
emails
imagine.
being like, hey man, I'm not trying to pry, I'm just making sure everything's cool.
Don't blame Inebri-art
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
relapse.
Blame paint night.
No, and he's like, no, it's just things have been weird and whatever. And so
Hope he's doing okay.
I should reach out to him.
You should
Yeah.
reach out to him. Make sure he's doing okay.
Yeah.
I was bringing an episode, like an old episode that I remember, but after that, it's gonna be like just something because it's just something goofy. I remember, like probably within like the first like 30 episodes.
Yeah.
I don't even remember his name. You interviewed a rapper,
Yeah.
and you just kind of let him freestyle a little bit.
Yes.
And I remember your reaction to it because you're like, that was awesome. And halfway through, I heard you say, I don't remember what he said, but I remember you being like, I heard you say, bring up this and that and the other thing. And you're like, wow, this guy's a fucking nerd.
Blackout, I think was his stage name.
I think that was his, yeah.
He was out of New Bedford. A friend of mine who was like trying to be like a producer or something put me in touch with him. Zero idea if that guy like went anywhere.
Yeah.
It's 400 episodes.
Yeah.
So you figure frequently we're interviewing 2 or more people at a time. So I've talked to 400 plus people.
Happy 400 episode anniversary, by the way. We haven't said that yet. Say it, Liam.
Did we? I thought we did.
No, we just
didn't?
acknowledged
Oh.
that it's a big
Happy
day.
400th anniversary to Inebri-art
Thank you.
podcast.
400th episode anniversary. It's not like the 400th like
I-
year.
I-
You have to specify.
Okay. Happy 400th episode anniversary to the Inebri-art podcast.
So like I was saying before I was really interrupted.
You don't even know what you were saying.
No,
before
I
you
know
were-
exactly what I was saying. It's weird because like I'll see an episode come up again or something, and I'll see their name, and I'll be like, "Who the fuck is this person?" And I'll read the description of the podcast, and I'll be like, "I don't remember talking to this person at all."
Yeah.
And Fish, when we started doing the comedy shows, this is comic Tom Stewart. He was headlining. I'm like, hey, Tom, man, what's going on? It's good to see you, blah, blah, blah. And Fish is like, hey, I'm Fish. And Tom's like, okay. And walked away. I'm like, bro, he's been on the podcast. And he's like, oh, it must have been more like a post-COVID one that was on Zoom. I'm like, no, it was one of the ones right before COVID. You sat in a room with that dude for like over an hour and talked or watched us talk.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Fish doesn't talk,
yeah.
silly.
He's like, I don't remember that guy at all. So it's very strange. Like, it's not just every once in a while I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember I interviewed a harpist one time. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah, whenever I'm like talking to people, like friends and stuff, or like people at work, like your podcast, one of the people I always bring up that you talk to, just to like give them an idea of the just sheer variety of people you've talked to, is that soap opera actress you told me about.
Oh yeah,
That did like was on the same show for like 40 years.
40
you
years,
said?
yeah, playing the same character.
Dang.
Yeah.
It was funny. Like her.
At what point does like the character do you start to become the character?
Right?
Like,
So
in
like
real life.
her PR's like, I initially wanted to interview somebody, and so their PR's like, they're not available, but this actress is, and I'm totally blanking on her name. It was very early COVID, and I'm like, soap opera actress. I don't know if I want to interview. And then I'm like reading and like played the same character for like 38 years. I'm like, holy shit, do I want to talk to that person? And she was so sweet. And I remember one of the things, like specific, 2 things I remember about that interview. One, a coyote walked across her back porch and she freaked the fuck out.
like during the interview?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Oh my
I could
God.
imagine.
And I'm like, it's just a coyote. It's cool. I see them all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But towards the end, she's like, oh, I don't, like, wasn't cutting it short. She's like, but I do have to go, I have acting class. And I'm like, you have acting class? You played the same character for 38. What are they going to teach you? And she goes, no, it's like you always should be, advancing your art and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's really
Makes sense.
good advice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
The one thing I remember about that is that you said that your like one of your like immediate thoughts after the interview was that there were points where you would ask her a question and you wouldn't know if it was the character or the actress answering.
yeah.
That's like my point. At what point in 38 years are you just one?
Yeah. I mean, you kind of are.
Yeah.
She was really fascinating to talk to.
That reminds me of like there's this clip of Jensen Ackles. He's the actor who played Dean in Supernatural. There's this clip of him at like a convention telling a story about how he kicked in a hotel door once in person just because he was like acting like to Dean.
Yeah.
And Supernatural's long, but it's not 38 years long. So that makes me think.
It's acting is a really, and this is kind of like one of the discoveries over. It's been like 7 years doing this.
Yeah,
Do you
I think
act
that's
when you do this?
I think that's what I figured out.
Kinda.
You, John? That's not really you.
No,
That's not your real name.
So I was actually talking about this with Eli, and it's funny because Supernatural came up.
Yeah.
He shits on Supernatural constantly on his show, and he constantly meets people at like live shows, and they're like, "How can you hate Supernatural?" He's like, "I have good news for you. I've seen 2 episodes. I really have no opinion one way or the other."
That's fair.
And it's just part of his shtick.
It's just
part
a
of his
bit
character.
that he does.
Like Fish says, I hate cats professionally.
Yeah.
I'm not a cat person. I'm really indifferent. Whatever. They're indifferent to me. I'm indifferent to them. But anytime they come up on the show, I shit all over them because it's kind of part of this. But part of it is like acting because, I'm spending all my morning like answering emails and getting pissed off about something else and and in a cranky mood and don't want to talk to this person. And then you get on and you're like, "Hey, how you doing?" Like you have to you can't be like
the customer service.
"What's up, bitch?"
You're just slipping into like the customer service.
Little bit,
face,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
Hi,
yeah.
how can I help you today?
Yeah. Not quite as
Not
dead
quite
in the
as
soul as
but like
I don't
Same
know
kind of
about
idea.
the cat one though. I don't think that's acting. I think you're just evil.
No, cats are evil. That's
And
dogs are everything that's good in the world.
Dogs are pretty cool,
They're amazing.
but cats are like little cherub babies.
No,
Yeah.
they're like
Little
demons sent
cherub
here to ruin
angels.
us.
They're awesome.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's a little bit of acting, but like acting overall is so weird that like if you're a good actor, you're essentially putting your body into a state. Like there's physical attributes to being upset and excited and sad, and you're kind of like putting your body through all this, and your body doesn't know that you're acting. Like it's just
Whoa, dude.
yeah,
That's deep.
it's deep.
I know.
The show gets deep once in a while.
At what point does Andy become John?
Okay, for listeners who this might be your first episode, there is no John.
What are you talking about? You are John.
When I start recording, that's
John turns on.
that's when it kind of go. And I've had people be like, "Oh, you're doing your radio voice." I'm like, "I don't have a radio voice. Go fuck yourself." But yeah, there's a certain amount of driving the conversation and a little bit more upbeat. It's just me turned up a little.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Andy with some sparkle.
yes, it's Andy with jazz hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because part of that, I mean, you just got to kind of be positive and so
Starting to sound like a hippie.
on the show, so you sound positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got me
You
scared.
can be miserable.
The
I'm not gonna-
tie-dye shirt was throwing me off.
Yeah,
I was
this
starting to
tie-dye
get scared for you.
I made it myself.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it threw me off a little bit when you picked me up, having you not in like an Inebri-art shirt of some sort.
Well, I'm not working today.
I know,
I
but
thought
it's
this
like,
was work.
Yeah, but I'm not like customer facing today.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
I'm trying to think of another question because I had a couple and then we sat down and
and then you
no
lost
more.
them all.
They're gone.
that is because I don't plan questions. I don't want to plan questions because I feel like the second you do that, then it starts to be you ask, "What's your favorite Muppet?" And then instead of like listening to the answer, you're like, "All right, how do I segue to,
The next question.
What's your favorite pizza or whatever?"
Yeah.
And I got so many better and more interesting conversations because I'm listening to them and they say something like to them is no big deal, but then they say something fucking outlandish and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
but it can be really challenging because sometimes people aren't talkative, and you're like, so what was like the best venue you ever played? And they're like, whoa, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
And in your brain, you're like, yeah, can you fucking answer it? Like,
Yeah.
this interview is going nowhere. But that's kind of like why it's meant. That's why I like it being casual and
Casual.
yeah.
Yeah, I also kind of just like don't, not that I don't interview people ever, but I'm also the same way where like I did when I was in high school, my junior year, I took an intro to criminal law class. This is when I was thinking of going into like forensics and stuff like that. And like part of like our final grade for the semester was or for the class was doing a mock trial.
Yeah.
So we split the class up between plaintiffs and defendants and assigned people different roles of what part of the story they were in and who was going to be like, you know, the defense attorney and like the plaintiff's attorney and who was going to like cross-examine and stuff like that. And I was on the defendant side cross-examining.
Yeah.
So like my prep, like they gave us like, not necessarily like a script to follow, but like a script of information and stuff like that was important.
Yeah.
So like where they're like, you know, the teacher's like, okay, you know, go home, your homework's tonight, think of questions, mock trial tomorrow, you know, doesn't matter win or loss because it's whatever. It's
always matters if you lose.
I was so upset we lost. But like, so she was like, you know, if you're asking questions, you know, prep what questions you want to know. If you're answering questions, you know, make sure you know the information that you need to know, like your character and all that sort of stuff, because she didn't necessarily want us, like, looking down at the paper she gave us for information.
Yeah.
So, like, my prep I did in class, because after, like, she gave us and assigned everything, we had, like, 20 minutes left of class. So I'm like, okay, I'm just doing my prep now. And all my prep was highlighting key points that I was going to ask about. And that was it. And she was like, you did a really good job. And I was like, thank you. I didn't prep anything. I just knew key points. And I'm like, these are things that I need to question.
I used to go in completely cold with zero information. Now I'll go in and I'll try to have just like, not really a question plan, but like, oh, you know, I checked out a couple of their videos and there's this interesting thing about their video. I'm going to try to bring that up. You know, so, and I interviewed a band out of London recently, and in the press release, Tilda Swinton referred to them as her favorite up-and-coming band. So I'm like, that's
a big thing.
I want to know more about that.
Yeah.
Who's Tilda Swinton?
Tilda Swinton, she was in, have you seen Doctor Strange?
No.
Have you seen Constantine?
No.
Have you seen any movie that Tilda Swinton has been in?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Those are the two that jump into my mind, but that doesn't.
Okay.
She's
a pretty famous lady.
Yeah, not like A-list. Probably more. Sorry, Tilda. More like a high C-list.
Wow, you're really ragging on Tilda right now.
No. Well, I think Tilda can be like very androgynous, and so I feel like
Same girl.
Huh?
I said same girl.
Oh. Yeah, but the inflection was different, so it sounded more like same girl. And I'm like, same girl as well.
My bad.
No, so I feel like certain movies like wouldn't even like use her just because Tilda's got like a very distinct look. So
I'm gonna look her up.
yeah. Great actress though. Oh, we can do that right now?
I thought you were.
No, that makes a great.
I thought you were talking.
that makes
about,
it
great interview.
You were talking about a band that Tilda Swinton liked, so I was gonna let you continue to talk about the band.
And that's the end of that story.
Okay. Oh, I know who Tilda Swinton is.
Yeah, see, you would know. I couldn't. Those are the only two movies I could think of her.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
A good one this time. Not Muppet related at all.
What's
I mean,
your
the Muppet
favorite
one was a good
Smurf?
question.
No. Who's your biggest like inspiration? Who like inspired you podcast wise?
Okay.
That is a good question.
I know it's a good question. I came
Yeah,
up
and
with
then
it.
so the podcast kind of came about. The first podcast I got into listening to is called No Such Thing as a Fish.
Does Fish know about that?
He's
Yes.
the one who told me about it.
Okay.
When he would pick us up, that's what would be playing when he would.
Oh,
drive us.
really?
Yes.
Interesting.
And now
I
I,
didn't know that.
now I occasionally listen to No
It's-
Such Thing as a Fish.
I
It's
just-
fantastic.
I just know every time Funkle Fish picks us up, he's got a podcast on in the car, and I'm like, this guy's weird.
sometimes it's really bad.
Dude, he doesn't
um,
listen to music, I don't think.
No.
I don't think he can physically hear music.
He definitely can't sing.
Whoa, dude.
I know that for a fact. But so it's researchers for a TV show we used to watch, or still watch, I should say.
Yeah, isn't it the people for QI?
For QI, yeah. So they do the research for QI. They came out with their own podcast. And I'm like, this is great. I want to do a podcast. Let's do a podcast. And he's like, about what? I'm like, art. And he's like, art's visual, that's stupid. And I'm like, all right, fine.
Fish is very mean to you.
Yeah, he's a
Debbie Downer.
he's a super Debbie Downer.
He's trying to snuff out your light.
I know.
We won't let
And
that
I just want to
happen.
shine.
I know.
Yeah.
We won't let that happen, John. Don't worry.
All right. And so I was kind of like, all right, fine, I'll get back to you. And then I was watching, I don't know what it was shot for, where it aired. I saw it on YouTube, and it is Louis C.K., Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, and Ricky Gervais.
It's a crazy combination.
Yeah.
That is a wild lineup.
And you're like, ooh, there's a lot of cancellation in there already.
Yeah.
But at the time, there wasn't. And they were discussing, like, their process and, like, why Jerry Seinfeld works clean and you know, Louis C.K. and Chris Rock don't, and kind of like how they rate and I was just like, oh, that's the podcast. I want to talk to creative people because we're all kind of the same. We're all cut from the same fabric. What you do creatively is what makes you different.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back and I pitched it to Fish, and he was like, so I have to learn how to edit audio? And I'm like, yeah.
Get on.
I should have put and work microphones because the whole first microphone was a bit of a shit show.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember that.
And then at about that same time, I started listening to, at the time it was Nerdist, then it became ID10T, and it was Chris Hardwick's
Yeah.
podcast. And that's kind of like where I got the format and the style, and like how, like, I don't plan questions. It's very casual because he would have, and he started off with his stand-up friends, and he got all the way up to, like, he had like Bill Gates on, and like he had Tom Hanks on.
I was gonna say, I feel like
Yeah, he had some huge people
I never
on.
really listened to it, but I feel like vividly he had like Neil deGrasse Tyson on.
Oh, yeah.
multiple times.
Yep.
That's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was getting Tom Cruise, like the A-list of A-list.
Yeah.
And he never changed it, and he was just kind of himself, and you know, it was fun, and I'm like, that's kind of how I want to have these conversations, and so that's kind of like where the whole influence and
That's where Inebri-art
Yeah.
was born.
and then, well, the podcast.
yeah.
Yeah.
Inebri-
The
It's been around for
podcast
even
is called
longer.
Inebri-art.
Yeah, I know. But like Inebri-art's way more than
Yeah.
a podcast.
Whatever. That's where the podcast was
Yeah.
conceived.
And then me and Fish always said, hey, if No Such Thing as a Fish comes to on, if they go on tour anywhere near us, we're gonna go see them. And their first U.S. tour, their first stop was Boston.
Did
That's
you
cool.
see them?
Hell yeah,
Obviously.
that was great.
Interesting.
And they're interesting. They did Boston specific interesting facts.
That's kind of cool. I
and
like that.
Boston was the first town, I don't know why I'm pointing at you like this, in the United States to have a police car.
That's cool.
Interesting.
But no police knew how to drive. So they had to hire a driver.
Of course
That's
they
funny.
didn't.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah,
They're being chauffeured around. That's
Yeah.
really funny to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, like, makes a lot of sense. Like, why would they know how to drive
Yeah.
if cars were that
Yeah.
obscure?
Yeah. That's
I feel like
silly.
also for people that listen that don't know what No Such Thing as a Fish is, we're just talking about facts. They find it's like they each go off.
Oh
and
yeah, I
find,
have
like,
no idea what No Such Thing as a Fish is.
So
so
they're-
I'm like,
They're researchers for this show that's, like, super like weird factoids, and so they basically discuss the 4 most interesting facts that they found during the week. And usually it is like they'll be like, oh, I have this fact, and it'll be like, oh, the first elevator only went down instead of up or something like that. And then they would spin off on like, oh, I have an interesting elevator fact, and kind of like work that way.
That's really cool.
It is it's very interesting.
Andrew Hunter Murray always brings up Moss.
I'm a big Moss fan.
Yeah. And I'm blanking on the other guy's name. He's Australian. Constantly talks about Yetis and Bigfoot and aliens.
I love a good cryptid. You should do a cryptid episode. You should interview Moss.
Well, we did on Old Colony Cast. We did the
No, but like you should interview one.
I should interview one?
Yeah, like Mothman or
we
something.
did a it's not a cryptid, but it is a mystery.
Ooh.
Where we interviewed Plymouth 400.
I was just thinking about
don't know
that.
what
I
that
think
is.
I remember.
So Plymouth had their big 400th anniversary planned, and it happened to be COVID, so nothing happened. But it was like years lead in, and someone started a spoof Instagram account called Plymouth 400, and it was all like hyper local memes. Like if you don't live in Plymouth, you aren't going to get it, and a lot of it, if you don't like originate from Plymouth, you don't get it. Like there's sometimes where I'm like, I don't know what the hell that is.
Is it like kind of like that big blue building that one time that was blocking the
yeah,
ocean?
that was very prominent on
I remember
400.
that one
Yep.
a lot. That one's really funny.
Yeah, so like, but I mean, not even just like current things. Like there'll be like throwbacks to like references in the 1980s and like, and no one knew who 400 was.
Yeah.
Hannah, I don't know how she did it, found out who it was.
That's
just
awesome.
like Sherlock Holmes did.
Yeah.
Didn't like ask around. Like she pieced it together and messaged them and was like, hey, are you Hundy? And if so, do you want to come on the podcast? So Hundy is like, I'll absolutely come on the podcast. And we're like, all right, we'll do a voice changer thing.
Dude.
So it's like we ask a question, then be like, like the whole voice changer thing.
So you did interview a cryptid.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
kind
in
of
a
awesome.
sort of
And
way,
so, but then the thing was, there are people who still don't know who 400 is.
Yeah.
And 400 still posts.
But you guys know in your hearts and your
And
souls.
Second Wind Brewery came out with a beer called Who's Hundy, and Hans used to like serve it, and his big joke was like, as he would slide it across, he'd be like, oh, are you Hundy? And he like slid it across. He's like, oh, are you you know who Hundy is. I was on some people's short list for being Hundy.
I remember you telling me
Which
that
I'm
a
like,
lot.
that's really stupid. I don't get half the jokes. Like, I am not from
Yeah.
Plymouth.
Also, why would you interview yourself?
To add to the
'Cause it'd
misinformation, because I
If it
will
was him,
See-
it'd be funny.
I could never be Hundy.
I will say that I did add to the misinformation campaign intentionally.
That's awesome.
I was at Dorchester Brewery,
You told me this.
and I think I told you when you were helping me at Dorchester,
Probably.
and somehow got talking to the bartender, and she's like, "Oh, my brother is one of the brewers for Second Wind." I'm like, who? And she's like, Joe. I'm like, oh. And in my head, I'm like, Joe is convinced that I am Hundy. So I said to his sister, I'm like, do me a favor. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, text him right now. Tell him you're at work and that Hundy says hello, but you can't tell him who I am. And so he calls immediately. And she's like, I can't tell you. I can't. And so finally they hang up and I go, the funny part is, and she's like, what? I'm like, I'm not Hundy. So, yeah, that's
I don't know if this is revealing too much. I don't think you have, but I know you have introduced me to Hundy
Oh, maybe.
at one of the many markets I was helping
Yeah.
I
out
want to
with.
meet Hundy.
I believe
I'll introduce you.
I believe
Yeah.
you had introduced me to Hundy before.
I'll be so
That's awesome.
secrety. I won't tell
I
anyone.
feel like Hundy is less careful now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because
I
I'm
don't-
like, oh, shit. You just posted that, and that's happening right now. If someone looks around the room, they can be able to figure out who you are.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been going on like 6 years or something like that.
yeah.
And you'll see people like out and about in town wearing Hyundai merch.
That's
like
kinda
it
cool.
is a thing.
That's really cool.
So.
What?
What else
I
you got?
keep giving Liam dirty looks.
Why?
I'm gonna be
I don't know.
because I don't know. I just keep looking at him going,
He's
and then he does it back to me.
He's doing a fine job. He's a handsome man.
I'm getting
know.
scolded.
I don't. Keeps me entertained. Keeps me.
Oh, I get that. I do that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And you really, this is
What?
probably an awful thing to bring up on the podcast
What?
because it's very visual.
Oh, your shirt?
Yeah,
Oh.
I showed you my shirt before I got
Well,
it,
no,
and you
'cause-
knew about it, and then you looked at me and went, "An emu?"
No, because it just clicked in my head that you have an emu on your shirt, and Dad has an emu egg.
Okay.
Which I really hope is legal for me to own. Thanks for ratting me out.
You're
Snitches
fine.
get stitches.
You are fine.
But,
relax.
yeah.
Now that it's brought up, I feel like we have to go deep and
Oh, you have the
dive
the,
a little bit
You
into
have a
it.
shirt referencing the emu war.
You just
Yeah.
want to talk about the emu.
He wants to talk
war.
about it.
I
Sure.
kind of do
Okay.
because it is very.
This
funny.
is your interview now.
No.
Liam, could you please tell us about the emu war?
So episode 400 is all about Muppets and emus.
What else would it be
it
about?
takes-
I've worked for 7 years to put this together. Now we're talking about emus.
Is like
Go ahead.
it's like 2 seconds
Okay.
because in 1932,
1 marshmallow. 2 marshmallow.
What?
farmers
So 3
in
seconds.
he's counting me down,
Okay.
and now I'm getting
Usually-
flustered.
Usually people say Mississippi.
I know. I like
But-
marshmallow better.
Okay.
I believe it's farmers in Australia. Their farmland was getting destroyed by emus, so they went to like the Australian government to get like weapons and ammunition to kill all the emus, and it took like a handful of months.
Emunition.
They killed maybe like 10 birds because they were actively outrunning the bullets. They were too fast.
Emus are built different.
So then they just gave up. So I did find and purchase a shirt that says "Never Forget 1932,"
And it has an emu
with
on
an
it.
emu over Australia.
Yeah.
I always post every Black Friday. I share the same picture that I drew like ages ago, and it's the turkey like holding his fist up in the air, and he's got like a black armband and says "Never forget."
That's kind of funny.
I think so.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you got any more questions?
I asked a question last. Leland, do you have a question?
I don't know if I have a question.
Do you remember you guys were on the show before?
I do. I was
talking
actually
about that
thinking
earlier
about that.
today.
Yeah.
It was like
Oh, it was like episode like 15 or
yeah,
something.
we
It
were,
was-
We were
very early
little.
on.
Yeah.
That was years ago.
Yeah, probably the point where there's definitely people listening now that had no idea you interviewed your kids.
Probably.
Most people I talk to in general, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you had kids," and I'm like,
Do you let people think you don't have kids? How dare you?
But here's the thing: I'm always like, I don't really have kids. I have adults, and they're like, "How
Oh,
old
that's
are
true.
you?" And I'm like, "Old enough to have adults." So,
Yeah, I was thinking about it probably like half an hour ago, where I was like, "Oh, this is kind of like our quote return
your
Yeah.
grand return, like
to the podcast."
The
300 and
Offspring
something
Part 2.
episodes later. Yeah.
Yeah,
We've aged and graduated. That's crazy. The last time we were on your podcast, we were like babies.
I was
You were
probably-
probably like middle school.
Yeah,
I
was
was
gonna say-
in middle school.
Yeah.
I remember it because I was dating a specific boy.
Who shall not be named?
Yeah, because you told me I can't name drop people. So
No. No, you can name drop people. I said you can't shit on people.
okay, well,
you don't have to
Those are
shit
two
on
very
them.
Different things.
I guess.
Like I can be like, I dated so and so, and I don't have to shit on them.
Okay,
like,
yeah, whatever. Well, I was dating my middle
I-
school boyfriend at the time because I talked about him on the podcast, so I remember it was in middle school.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was probably like just into high school,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then we're both.
you were probably in like 8th grade because I think it was in 6th grade, unless you
Was
were a
it?
freshman. I don't know.
I was either 8th grade or like freshman in high school.
Yeah, and I was either 6th or 7th grade,
no,
and I'm 20.
So old.
I know.
very
It's
old.
crazy.
I know. Tell me about it. I've got a job and stuff. 2 of them actually. I have
Yeah.
2 jobs.
You're like a grown up.
I know. I'm an adult. I was actually talking to one of my coworkers about oh, this is a question I came up with actually, but it has literally nothing to do with the podcast. It's a personal question. because I was talking to one of my coworkers once because they really, 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 really like Our Flag Means Death, and you interviewed that one.
Oh yeah,
actor who was
Vico
on it.
Ortiz.
Yeah, and so
That made me really mad at you.
what do you mean?
That made me really mad at you. Ask your question, and then I'll recap why I was mad at you.
Okay, cool. I feel like I have an idea of why,
Okay.
but I don't know. So I have been like, I talked to my coworker or whatever because they're non-binary, and they were like, "Oh, I really like that actor because they're non-binary," and I was like, "Oh yeah, fun stuff." And then that made me think. One of my questions I was gonna ask: how did you feel when I came out as non-binary? Not like, I know how you felt. You were like, okay, do your thing, girl, but like in a gender neutral way. But like, were you surprised, or were you like shaking it all? Were you like, this is a curveball? Or
I don't know if this is going to deflate your bubble at all.
Okay.
I was so indifferent that I was like, whatever.
I kind of
Like, and I've had this conversation because a lot of my friends have young kids.
Mm-hmm.
And things like that come up, and sometimes in good ways and sometimes in bad ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I do not care at all. Like,
Yeah, I kinda got that
my
impression.
only care is that you're happy.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as Michael treats you right, I don't care.
so I don't have to treat Michael right.
Listen,
We've been over this.
I'm a realist. I know what I can ask for and might happen.
I treat him lovely, by the way.
Yeah, I don't remember you coming out specifically as non-binary. I think it was around the first Plymouth Pride was because
I
you were like,
remember it exactly.
can I bring my flag? And I was like, I don't, bring whatever flag you want. And I'm like, what does that flag mean?
I didn't even bring a non-binary
Oh.
flag, so that's kind of funny.
I don't remember what it was.
I remember.
It was like green and black.
No, that I was wearing a pin.
No, you brought a flag.
I brought a flag. The flag was not a non-binary flag.
It wasn't? It was
No.
green, black, and white?
No, it wasn't. I had a pin that was green, black, and white.
I thought the flag was. Are you sure?
Yes,
I don't
I'm
I have a
remember
good
either
memory
of
for these
this.
things.
No.
right.
Anyways, I remember it exactly because I think honestly, you two specifically, the way that I came out to both of you is so incredibly funny to me.
Was this
It
the
is-
lunch thing?
It was
Because this is one of my proudest parenting moments.
no, really.
Yeah.
Well, the way I remember it, which
Okay.
is the correct way.
Well, let's go through this because I remember it the correct way too, and I was kind of like, "Damn,
Well,
bro, that was the best way you could handle that."
We were like me and my friend Mikey, I think, were walking around or something Pride, and like you guys had like a booth together with Hannah.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were recording the old
Yeah.
Colony cast. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess when I walked away, Hannah asked you if I used they them pronouns because I guess that might be the way I look. And you went, I don't know, which I love you for that. Thank you.
Because I was like, I'd never asked.
Yeah. And then so when I came back, you asked me, and I was like, yeah. And you were like, okay, Hannah asked.
Liar.
What?
Liar.
What do you mean?
Liar. Liar.
That's how I
and this
remember it.
and it's a lie. I'm calling you out now.
Oh, wait,
And
okay.
this is why I was mad at you about the
I
Vico
remember
Ortiz.
it. Go on.
Because
I remember
said
now.
And then I was like, oh, I never asked, and I feel kind of like dumb. I should have asked. I'm like, do you go by they, them? Do you go by she, her? Do you go by slimy, not slimy? I don't care.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it doesn't matter. You can call me whatever. I don't care, whatever. And I'm like, oh, all right. I just figured I'd ask. And then I was texting you. I'm like, I just interviewed Vico Ortiz, and they're super cool.
And
And I
then-
told them that my daughter is non-binary. And you're like, girl, I'm not really your daughter then. And I was like, you motherfucker. I asked you specifically.
Okay, to be fair.
And you're like, I just didn't want to make it weird. And I'm like, I'm mad. Grrr.
To be fair, when you first asked me, I did genuinely like. I was like, "Oh, I'll go buy everything." But when people hear that, they go, "Oh, so I'll just use she/her indefinitely because that's part of everything." And then I go, "Oh, no. Well, now I'm just a girl." So that's where I changed it, and then I just I guess I just neglected to tell you because I did for a while. I was like, I'll use anything you call me, but then
And that's why I call you Turd, because Turd is non-binary.
exactly,
Yeah.
it's gender neutral.
Exactly. You're welcome.
Thank you. So
Oh, so this is not that's not when you came out to me.
I thought that was when I came out to you.
No. As non-binary, yes.
Yeah, I don't really count the whole liking girls thing because like,
Oh, that was one of my proudest moments.
I just like told people I had a girlfriend and they were like, okay.
So you were 13, like just 13.
Yeah.
And you got in my car. You're like, Dad, I have a boyfriend. I'm like, I hate him. And you're like, you don't know? I'm like, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then it was almost like year to the day almost. And we're at Speedwell Tavern, downtown Plymouth. If you're there, go check them out. Great stuff. I was there last night.
Smooth promo.
And we're having lunch, and you're like, oh, I forgot to tell you. Me and this boyfriend broke up.
Because I broke up with the boyfriend because I liked the girl.
Yeah, well, you said we broke up, and I'm like, oh, he wasn't good enough for you. And I went back to my lunch, and I'm like, wait, did you break up with him, or did he break up with you? And you're like, I broke up with him. And you're like, good. Fuck that guy. I didn't say fuck. I didn't swear on you guys.
Just to preface, he didn't do anything wrong. He's a great guy.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
You're 13.
So then,
Well, no, because I know him still.
So then-
and he's still fine.
So then I went back to my lunch, and then I'm like, wait a second. And you're like, what? I'm like, why did you break up? And you're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, is there someone else? And you're like, that's complicated. And I'm like, well, uncomplicated. And you're like, I like someone else, but she can't date until high school. And I go, yeah, I don't like her either. And I just went back to my lunch. Like that was it, man. Like I was like, whatever. Because I don't care.
Yeah. You don't care as long as you can just hate them.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel like
it's something about like the youngest where I'm supposed to like,
girl, I know.
you know,
I'm the
that
youngest. I've picked up on it.
Yeah, a little protective. You know,
Yeah.
like Liam could be like, my significant other punched me in the eye. I'd be like, well, pick up your skirt and stop crying. Do something about it. Which is wrong, but that's hey, you know, I can admit when I'm.
But the way I came out to Liam
This was very funny.
is so funny to me, at least. It's a very us way to do something.
Yeah.
So he's like, throughout my whole life, whenever I've like questioned like anything, he's always been the person who I'm like, oh, I know he won't care, because like obviously like when
Did you think I would care?
I didn't like think that you would not be like, I didn't think you'd be upset,
Yeah.
but also like there's two different reactions that I usually expect. Is like the over like, that's wrong, or the over like, I love you anyways, and like.
Which is so stupid because, like, why wouldn't you?
I know. But like,
I didn't murder somebody.
exactly. But like, because like I've seen like some people's parents, not to name names, but I've seen some people's parents who will like use it as like a badge and be like, oh, well, I have a queer kid. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. So I never expected a bad reaction from you. I was just like, I wonder how. But also, you and Liam are just a copy and paste of each other. So.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But when I came out to Liam, I had come out to literally everyone in my entire life almost.
I remember this vividly.
Me too. Because it wasn't that long ago either. And I've been out since like,
It really wasn't.
I don't know. I started using they, them in like middle school, but I think I've been out.
You didn't tell me until like post pandemic.
Yeah, I know. Because I didn't come out till family like a lot later. But anyways, I came out to like everyone I knew at this point. Like you knew, everyone knew. And then our sister asked me and was like, Liam's so chill about everyone, because he has like, he watches like non-binary streamers, he has trans friends, he's like, he uses everyone's correct pronouns all the time. And so our sister asked me and was like, why doesn't Liam use your correct pronouns or like your preferred name? And I'm like, I don't know. So I walked up to Liam.
Zoe, not your preferred name?
I dropped the E. It's just Zoe, but
Okay.
I still use Zoe, but
Yeah.
it's just like preferred, whatever.
Okay.
But so I walked up to Liam one day, just like in our living room, and I was like, why don't you use my preferred pronouns? And he was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
That's not how I remember it differently.
I remember me asking you, and you're like, you never told me anything about pronouns.
See? I got your back. They do that shit to us.
I vaguely remember that. The way I remember finding out anything. No. So when you came out, it was like probably like 1-ish in the morning, and you and Mom were sitting on the couch talking.
Oh, I do remember this.
And she
too.
calls, and I think you called me out of my room, and I'm like, that's strange. And you were like, I'm not your sister, but I'm not your brother. And I'm like, Okay.
I was really awkward about it when I first.
But that's how
No.
that's how you left it. You never specified pronouns. You never specified any like
yeah,
label on it. You're just like, I'm not your sister and I'm not your brother.
and that's
and
why.
I'm just gonna put this on the table.
Okay.
Not telling us what pronoun to use and then get mad when we use the wrong one is a very she/her thing to do.
I did it. First of all,
Just saying.
listen. First of all, you're very correct. Second of all, I didn't get mad. I was confused. And when you interviewed that person, it was honestly, I was just ragging on you because
Yeah.
I was like, haha, you misgendered me to a non-binary person when you were talking about me being non-binary. Look at you.
But see, I didn't because I didn't know better.
No, I know that.
So.
But it was much later when you were like, why don't you use like
Yeah.
the right pronouns or preferred name? And it was purely because you never told me.
I know.
You never told me like a preference because like some people still called you she, her, and Zoe.
Yeah.
Some people called you they, them, and Zoe.
Well, I don't want them to call me she,
Yeah.
her, and Zoe, but yeah.
See, like the whole Zoe thing, you could have told me.
Yeah, I don't honestly.
I
haven't-
just thought that was a lazy shorthand.
Yeah, I just cause like that's always just been like my nickname. That's just what people call me.
Yeah.
But then after I've been out for a while, I'm like, I kind of prefer it when people call me that. So
Yeah.
I just been using.
I mean,
it.
I prefer when people call me Andy.
Yeah,
People call me
Over
Andrew. I'm like,
John.
don't do that.
over John.
over John.
I definitely over John because I don't respond to those people because I'm like, that's not my fucking name.
But it's also, I kind of enjoy having like, because it's a preferred name that people don't realize is like a preferred name.
yeah.
Like, there's a, not to name drop because I'm kind of going to be shitting, but
Awesome.
I meant like on this person. But there's, a
I
very,
didn't think you meant in your pants.
but like there's a very like transphobic person in my life
Yeah.
who like I can't come out to, even though I'm pretty sure they know by now, but they have no idea. They still call me Zoe. They're not trying to gender me correctly. They're not trying to use my preferred name. That's just what they've always called
Yeah,
me.
that's what they
So
yeah.
it's like, aha, I got you.
That's
it's
like
kind of fun.
a friend of mine recently just came out to all of us as trans, female to male, and he was telling us like his preferred name and all that sort of stuff. And he was saying that the first person he came out to was some like old guy that he works with,
Yeah.
because because the old guy introduced him as like, oh, I'm so and so, but they call me whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, ooh, I could use this as like a test run because I can give them my preferred I can introduce them as like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm, so and so. I'm
Sparkle Pony.
she, her, and all that stuff. But I can give them my preferred name as a nickname because old guys like nicknames as long as they have a goofy story to go behind it.
Yeah, we do.
So he introduced himself as, dead name and all that sort of stuff. But like, oh, my friends call me, I don't want to use their name because I don't know how to comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't dox someone.
Yeah, but they're like, oh, my friend is
Sparkle Pony.
I'm so and so, yeah.
Yeah.
They
And
call
my
me
friends call
Sparkle
me this
Pony.
because why? So they were like, this is very like gender affirming to like go to work every day
And
and already have people calling me the name that I want to be without.
it's so frustrating. It's like, I don't know. I'm
Girl,
not
tell me
to
about
like
it.
get on a high horse, but people get like so bent out of shape and they're like, I can't remember what Caitlyn Jenner's dead name is now.
Chris. I
Chris.
think?
Thank
Oh
you.
wait, no.
No.
Was it
no,
not Kris
no.
Jenner?
That's Kris Jenner's the mom.
Okay.
I think. I don't know.
Bruce.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
gotcha.
like, I'm calling them Bruce because and then you're like, who's this picture of? And they're like, Prince. And you're like, who's this picture of? Cher. Do you think that's their fucking name?
Yeah. There was also this thing that happened recently where Bud Light collaborated with a trans woman.
Oh,
Oh,
Jeez,
yeah.
And
yes.
everyone boycotted it. But then I saw a bunch of videos online of like, so obviously there was like an.
Not everyone boycotted it, and they boycotted it in the stupidest fucking way. Like, obviously, I work a lot with
Yeah.
restaurants, and just the bartenders being like, people are so fucking stupid. They'd be like, oh, Jim, you want a Bud Light? Because you're a Bud Light drinker. I don't drink that shit anymore because They, like
They're
them
woke
queers.
now.
Blah, blah, blah. And the bartender's like, I just fucking tell me what you drink. I'll have a bud. And you're like, what?
Well, that's the thing. There was like a bunch of videos going around of like, let's be real, grown men, because that was most of it. And they were just like they just like bought Bud Light and like dumped it out and like destroyed it. But
Kid Rock.
like
We all know who Kid Rock is.
I don't know who Kid Rock is.
You don't know
Yes,
Kid
you
Rock?
do. You know who Kid Rock
Who's
is.
Kid Rock?
Kid Rock was like the most vocal of them. He bought like 14 cases and then shot him with his gun because somehow
but
that
like that's the
made
thing.
him not gay.
But like that's the thing. You're buying Bud Light to destroy.
He also never stopped serving Bud Light at his restaurants.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But then like I saw a bunch of other videos of people who would like dissect these videos of like men destroying Bud Light, and they'd be like, this truck you have in the background has this pride campaign, these shoes you are wearing collaborated with this queer and it was really
Or they'd be
funny.
like, I'm going to drink Michelob. I mean, Anheuser-Busch makes so many beverages that you'd either have to be like, I'm only drinking craft beer, which if you're drinking Bud Light, you're not going to drink craft beer. Or you would have to do your research and make sure you're not buying just another beer that they put out. And I've had this conversation with many parents because I have a lot of friends with young kids. And I was talking with someone fairly recently. I can't remember who it was. And I'm like, honestly, there's only 2 people in this world that I should have any say, opinion, or interest in their sex life, and it's me and whoever my partner may be. Other than that, none of my fucking business, and I don't care.
Yeah.
At all. Wow. Is that your phone buzzing on
That's
the table?
not my
That's
phone.
your phone, dog.
That's not even... that really?
Yes.
Oh, that's on the desk.
Yeah,
I was going to give
know.
you shit for putting your buzzy phone on the
I
table.
put mine on Do Not
Wow.
Disturb before Zoe even got here.
My
Some
phone's
of
loud.
us know how to record
It's
a
over.
podcast.
It's like 15 feet away.
We can hear it.
So I'm an awesome dad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I heard that.
Okay, TBH for a second. No, it's gonna be good. Don't
Okay,
worry.
I'm like,
It's gonna be good. You are genuinely like out of all my parents, but you are like you're the most like I don't give a fuck, just hang out and be cool type of person, and it's great, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
you're welcome. I don't want to skip over your thank you.
Shout out.
But Adam Savage, I've talked about him a lot because I really enjoy the stuff he puts out. And there was one time he's like, when you have little kids, your job is to keep them alive. Don't touch that. Eat this. Did you drink enough water? Stay out of the sun. Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
He's like, and then at some point, it's more like you're a shepherd. And
You have to hurt us.
yeah. And it's
Okay.
more just, and you're more just kind of there and to be like, well, here's what I think. And not in a judgy way, but, if I was in that situation, this is what I would do. This would be my advice for you. I love you. Like, that's it. Like,
Yeah.
I've told you guys this when you were younger. Like, you guys are going to fuck up. Like, we all fuck up. Don't be on the news.
Yeah.
Don't be on the news.
Bare minimum.
That's when fuck up has gone way too far. And,
And we haven't been on the news.
good job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't been. Well,
Not in a negative way.
I was just
Like,
saying,
if
'cause
you're on the news for being like, I brought cookies to old people, that's
I
fine.
think I was like, quote, on the news, but I wasn't on the news.
Yeah.
Like for marching band or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to
Yeah.
be like that kid from your school that ate horse shit and lost.
I
That
don't.
was
I
awesome.
don't.
Yeah.
I also don't want. That's
That's when fucking up has gone too far.
That was probably a little
Yeah.
too far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That'll
when
be
it's gone
for
too-
after
Yeah.
podcast discussion.
Yeah. So it's
My middle school boyfriend was on the news.
in a bad way.
He was in a hit and run. He got hit.
Oh, that's the thing. Like that's being on the news, but that's not your fault.
Yeah.
Like that's fine. That means it's not fine. I remember you telling me this too.
Yeah. You think it's fine that a little kid got hit by a car?
I mean,
Wow. We have that on recorded.
yeah. So this has been a long episode.
Is this not how long? I don't know how long podcasts.
We usually go about 45 minutes to an hour, but I don't know what fish is going to take out. And how, I mean, we did have to stop to let the construction vehicle go back.
How long have we got?
About 129 minutes and 45 seconds.
The fuck am I?
I'm
Supposed
sorry,
to
1 hour.
convert that?
1 hour.
Thank you.
Why did I say 100 hour? That's
You said
120 minutes. That's
I
like
know.
2 hours.
I know. I read it in my brain. Like my brain knew what I meant. My mouth was like, I'm gonna fuck it up for everybody.
not to be that guy, but you just sounded like when mothers are like, "Oh, he's 34 weeks old." Yeah.
It's fine. Once you get to like 2 years, don't. Do
Once
that
you
shit.
hit 52 weeks, I feel like you can
Yeah.
start
No,
going.
they're one.
Like,
I
think-
feel like once you hit 1, you can start being like 1.5.
That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say. I
Because
think
once
after
you-
you hit 12 months, it's excessive.
Yeah,
If
because
I
then you
have
got to
to-
do math.
Exactly.
And I remember when you guys were little, your mom would spell shit out that she didn't want you to know. And all three of us would just stare blankly at her. And I'd be like, I don't know what you're fucking spelling to me. You know I can't do that.
Where does she think we got our dyslexia?
And they'd be like, what? And she'd be like, cookies. I'm like, yeah, I want cookies. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that.
that's like some skit I've seen, and it's supposed to be like,
Oh, I can't do it. I have a hard time when someone's giving me letters and I'm writing it down, let alone keeping it in
Yeah.
my head.
yeah, but,
Forget
like,
it.
I've seen a skit where it's like this guy playing all 4 characters, but it's like 3 guys, and they're like, hey, do you want like one guy's talking to another, and be like, hey, do you want a TREAT like treat?
Yeah.
I know that I've seen
Yeah.
this.
And then the 4th guy comes in and is like, why are you guys spelling? We're adults. And they're like, I think they call like the 3rd character like Terry, and they're like, Terry, we can't, if we say it, he's gonna get excited. And he goes, he's a grown man. I think he can control himself when you say treat. And then he goes, treat? Treat? And they go, no treat, no treat.
And then he goes, oh, and then it repeats, and
Yeah.
they
That-
spell it. They say it
it's-
again. He freaks out. It's
Yeah.
kind of funny.
Yeah. So. Yeah, dyslexia is hard.
Girl, I know you gave it to me.
Yeah, well, I didn't know I had it. I didn't know it was a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew it was a thing, but
Like there's this little story. When I was in elementary school, I don't know what grade, but I had dyslexia. Thanks, Dad.
you're welcome.
You have.
I did Google once in high school if you can grow out of it. You can't, by the way. So, I have dyslexia, and I had it.
Actually, Google's like, no, you can't grow out of dysphoria.
And you're like, fuck, it's not right.
And I did have it in elementary school. So I got taken out into like the special classes or whatever. But I guess
Samesies.
yeah, I know.
But they didn't tell me why I was being.
Being taken out, and I didn't know I had
Well,
it.
here's the thing. They didn't tell me why I was being taken out, but they clumped in the kids with dyslexia and the kids with autism. And so there was one day where I saw like a folder or something with my name on it, but it was like in some filing cabinet or it was somewhere. Basically, I saw a document with my name on it that was lumped into like a autism like folder.
Yeah.
And I went home and I freaked out. And I was like, Mom, you didn't tell me I'm autistic? And I freaked the fuck out. And she was like, no, you're dyslexic. And now that I'm older, she's like, you may be autistic. I don't know.
Well, I was talking with someone recently, and there was someone in our vicinity, and they're like, do you think he's like autistic?
Who's he?
Oh, I'm not
Just-
going to out this, like,
Oh.
you know.
I'm just trying to stay on
Yeah.
the same page.
Yeah, no, I get you.
And I'm like, I don't know, maybe I could see some of that. And I go, I mean, it's a spectrum, so technically we're all somewhat like, we all have our moments.
I think Leland's autistic. I mean that in a genuine way,
I was
not
like,
like
I am.
not like in an insult
I am very
way.
also pretty positive. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think so?
He's been peer reviewed.
peer reviewed by the many.
Yeah. What's
I'm not sure what that means.
Peer
just
reviewed,
say a
you've
lot
been
of
No,
stuff.
I know what it means, but like,
What do you mean? Like your friends tell you you're autistic?
Yeah.
his to be specific,
Friends,
his
family.
diagnosed autistic friends tell him he's autistic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember, and I don't know if this is going to make it because I love this story and it's super funny, but it is about fish.
Why does he edit out everything about him?
I don't know if he's maybe there. I don't.
Say something nice in the middle of it about fish, so he has to keep it in.
I'll feel dirty. So we were hanging out one night, and he said something about because it's like right kind of like they stopped using Asperger's and he's like I don't know. He's like I think I'm a little Aspergery, and I'm like. You mean like ass sliders? And I'm like, oh man, I'm so mad that your nickname is already Fish because sliders would be such a better story.
I
It
think
would be.
Yeah.
I think that's a really funny way that he said that because it's almost like I'm a little peckish right now. I'm a little Aspergery.
Yeah.
That's how he said that. That's funny.
The real thing is like a little.
yeah. Well,
But I mean, I feel so many people are.
yeah.
I
I was talking to my best friend once about Liam, and I mentioned because a lot of people don't notice that he's autistic
Yeah.
until I mention it in passing, and they go, "Really?" And I'm like, "If you lived with him, girl."
I don't really. I think it's probably harder for me because I'm like, I love him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
feel it.
very. It's like mild.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't. Well, it's mild to a point.
It's
like,
high
like,
functioning.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like because there's obviously people that are hindered by it.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I don't.
He's
think.
gotten this far in life without realizing it.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I feel like this is a very somewhat.
And to be
recent-
fair, you are being armchair diagnosed. Like
yeah,
Peer
I'm not
reviewed.
doctor hasn't told
We
you.
call
Yeah,
it peer
no.
reviewed.
But it's when people that have been diagnosed and that are very autistic are yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
It's
It's yeah.
and it makes sense for a lot of things
Yeah.
about me and how I am and how I operate and how I do things. It makes sense. I'm very analytical.
Yeah.
But I was talking to my best friend once, and I was talking about Liam, and I was like, "Oh, blah blah blah, because he's autistic, blah 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 blah," and she skated by it or whatever. And then a little bit later on in the conversation, I brought him back up, and I was like, "Something, something, something," because he's autistic. And then she was like, "Wait, is he actually? I thought you were just saying that." And I was so offended. I was like, "You think I would just call him autistic?" For fun? To be mean? What do you mean?
Because it's not a mean thing.
Exactly. I was like, no,
I'll call him stupid.
Yeah.
but I was like, no, as a diagnosis, not
So I didn't mean it to sound bad. And I have a witness who is
you're really setting yourself up right here.
listen, it
Set
wasn't
up for
my
greatness.
shining
Okay.
moment, and it was very much I kind of am an asshole sometimes.
Oh, I know.
And so Dan Mahoney, and this isn't shitting on him, is the best part of it
He's
is
my
you
best friend.
he's you meant it as a compliment. And I'm like, I fucking did. So a few of us were at the New World Tavern. We ended up at the British Beer Company. I had a few. And the three of us were trying to figure out the tip. We'd all had a few. So our math skills weren't on point.
Mm-hmm.
And this blonde girl who was singing and playing music with a friend of mine, I don't really know who it is, goes, "Oh, it's blah, blah, blah." And I just went, "What are you, autistic?" And Dad's like, "You meant it as a compliment." I'm like, "Yeah, it's not my it's her hang up if she took it any other way." He's like, "She didn't take it good."
That reminds me of Liam and our sister took our mom out for Mother's Day. And I'd like to say, stone cold sober.
Why do you say it like that?
Because
Oh my God.
I was stone cold
This
sober.
is very funny.
And was it I don't think it was the bill of the food. I don't know. It was something. We were I was trying to calculate a tip for something that was $100.
Yeah.
And I so genuinely looked at all of them and said, "What's 20% of 100?" And I have not heard the end of it since.
It was all of us had the same exact reaction, or it was just deadpan turned.
They all just stared at me for
Say that again.
Repeat what you just
But
said.
it hit me and I figured it out. But
We all do that shit, and some of my favorite Fish moments are those.
Yeah.
For a while, he swore that Speedwell made him stupid.
what does that mean?
Because they all seem to happen to Speedwell.
Oh,
We were there one night, and it was super busy.
maybe you guys just spend a lot of time at Speedwell. And
not
he's
really.
just stupid
Not
all
really.
the time.
Maybe.
Sorry, fish.
So we were there, and I'm like, God damn, it's busy in here. I wonder why it's so busy. It's weird. He's like, I don't know, maybe it's April vacation. And I'm like, it's October. And he goes, yeah? And I'm like, you're a fucking moron. And he's like, wait, what? Why did I do that? And the other time, like, one of our regular things to do there was, like, we'd each get different wings, and then we'd split a basket of fries.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, sometimes I'd get the fries, sometimes he'd pay for the fries. And this one day, I'm like, hey, rock, paper, scissors for the fries.
Mm-hmm.
And, you do the once, twice, three, shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And he did, I'm going to explain this because it's a visual thing.
Yeah.
He did how you would do paper, but he did it vertically.
Oh.
And I'm like,
What the fuck is that? Wall? You're paying for the fries. You're stupid.
and he's just kind of like looking at it like, what am I doing?
Almost
Yeah.
like he can't figure out what he's doing wrong.
But I mean, we all do shit like that.
I know,
like
but
just those brain misfires.
Fish does it all the time.
Listen, I don't want to play that game because I feel like people have enough stories about me being a fucking idiot.
There was one day I was working, and I was like ringing somebody up, and I was very new. It was probably within like my first like month or two of working at Roach Brothers, and I went to do like the whole spiel, like, oh, bye, have a great day, thank you, whatever, and like I stuttered and slipped up afterwards trying to recover, so I ended up just telling this random couple to have a gay day. And, like, I remember I was
You
like,
should do that all the time.
and I was
Have
like,
a gay day.
I was like, have a great gay day. I was like,
one of my first jobs was at the grocery store, and I'm a cisgender straight white guy.
Really haven't noticed.
I hit on some guy accidentally.
How do you do that accidentally?
So I worked at the service desk,
Mm-hmm.
and at the service desk they have lottery.
Mm-hmm.
I was working like a really long, like it was like one of those days where like, hey, can you stay late? And you're like, how much longer do you need me? And they're like 4 hours. It was something. I was there like way too long. I was starving, like to the point where like I'm hungry. I'm super hungry. Like I need to eat. I'm hungry. Like that was
like your
my
stomach
inner
hurts.
dialogue. Yeah.
And so this guy comes up and he's buying lottery tickets like everybody fucking does. And then he does what everyone does. Oh, if I win big, I'll come back and tip you, which what people always say.
Yeah.
And I go, I'd settle for dinner.
And he's like, okay, and walked away. And I was like, wait, no, because I'm hungry. Shit.
So I tried to go
man.
gay. He didn't want me.
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Unfortunate.
Is that how you ended up with fish?
That's how I'm straight. Listen,
I'm a lot of things.
I'm not gay.
Okay.
And I don't mean that badly. I feel like my dating life would be a lot better if I was.
Maybe. I mean, you have fish.
No.
Come on.
No.
I still. This is my favorite story in the world. You were telling us something. I don't even know what.
Thanks for listening.
Listen, you were telling us about one of your friends' weddings, and they had like a bunch of yard games set up, and all the couples were paired together, and you were like, and me and Fish were paired together.
I didn't say all the couples were paired
That is
together.
exactly what you said, because you
Not.
paused and you were like, listen. You were like, me and Fish are just friends, and I was like, you said all the couples were paired up.
What was it? Oh, last night, because like we were cashing out after our event, and the bartender's like, are you guys together? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I can do better than him. Yeah, I think that's we go any longer, and you guys are gonna have to explain to Fish why it's so long. He's got to edit this shit.
He's our stepmom.
Yeah, he is your stepmom. Be respectful of your stepmom.
Stepmom
am.
Funkelfish.
Stepmom Uncle Fish. Sounds very like Alabama.
He's gonna
It
cut.
very much does.
He's gonna cut like this whole like last half. Off
It's going to be
about
like,
him.
hey, congratulations on a happy 400th episode anniversary
Oh, that's it.
for our show today.
It is very hot in your office.
It's gotten really warm in here. Yeah.
It has.
yeah, I'm like sweating. Also, I've been standing in front of a heat press all day. I'm
Oh.
kind of losing my mind.
Yeah. Now's where you gotta do like the sign off.
The outro.
The
Yeah.
outro.
Thanks for listening. Do you have anything else you want to say, John Inebri-art of Inebri-art Podcasts?
I would like to say thank you to Liam and Zoe
And to
for coming in and interviewing me. If this is
we
what that
tried.
We asked questions.
No, this is pretty much on
I think,
par. This is kind of how the podcast
I was
is.
gonna say,
Okay.
we definitely ask questions,
Yeah.
and I think that's all an interview calls for.
Yeah.
I think the three of us are very chatty. So
Yeah.
it was less of questions. And
But I
like-
mean, my show
We gab.
only has a handful of questions, and it's usually chatty, and
yeah.
start arguing about Star Wars or
Well, we didn't talk
Whatever.
about Star Wars. We talked about
some
Muppets.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not all about you. Sometimes I talk about other episodes.
What?
It's not all about you. Sometimes I talk about other episodes.
What does that mean?
I've argued about Star Wars in the show
Oh, okay.
before. So yeah.
Fish cut that out.
Please don't. Please leave it in.
Can you do a Kermit?
You know who can do a really good Kermit? Michael.
Yeah.
There's
you
a,
do
Can you do a Kermit?
I can.
Hi ho, Kermit the Frog here.
that's awesome.
Thank you.
Michael does this thing at our D&D sessions where he like holds his hand up like this, like in the little. I don't know how to say this to the listeners.
In like
Like
a
like
hand
a-
puppet.
Yeah, in like
yeah.
a hand puppet way. And we used to have like these little like eyes.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah,
little-
yeah, yeah.
like the ring with the eyes
Yep.
on it. And he used to like make it talk in the Kermit voice. But we don't have the eyes anymore, so sometimes he just does that, and it's really funny because he does a really good Kermit the Frog impression. Oh my god, don't tell him I said that though, because oh my god, it's so
Next time I see him, I'm
annoying.
gonna be like, "Hi ho!"
It's so annoying because he'll start talking in his Kermit voice and then he won't stop, and it drives me fucking crazy. But it is kind of good.
A good friend of mine, Natalie Haymaker, used to work with at Home Depot, and we used to like go to lunch together, and she had like this stuffed bear in her car. I'm like, what's up with the bear? And she's like, oh, it's my son's, that's Barry. And she's like, I make Barry like say, oh, Jesus, Barry voice. What, I can't remember what Barry's voice was. And so I started doing it. She's like, oh, that's pretty good. And then I would proceed to make Barry say the most
Horrendous things, and she'd be like, "Stop!"
I had because I'm super creative and original. I had a little bear named Barry, and you made him do the Barry voice.
That's the Barry voice.
yeah.
Yeah, but I would make him.
say horrible things.
Yeah,
to you.
you wouldn't make my Barry
Yeah,
say
yeah.
like slurs to me or anything.
They weren't slurs.
They were just.
I'm
Yeah.
not a slur kind of person. It was more just like, that's obscene.
Yeah. But I, as a kid, would lose my shit when you did the Barry voice. Dude, that was like my bread and my butter. That was the whole kitchen. I was
Really?
like, that's fucking awesome. Do it again. Do you not remember? I used to be like,
I don't remember you being that into it. Like, I'd have to like really try to workshop that voice back.
Well, because like I remember I would be like, oh, do the Barry voice. And then you'd do it. And I'd be like, do more. And then you'd be like, no.
Dance, monkey, dance.
And then you'd be like, no, like I'm done. And I'd be
Yeah.
like, what the fuck, old man?
I
Except I
do
wouldn't say
remember
that.
that like, I was like, I'm not going to waste money on coloring books. I can draw. What do you want to color? And then I would draw it, and I'd outline it in Sharpie and then give it to you to draw.
Yeah.
And then you would sit there and be like, it has two eyes
I remember that.
and two ears.
I do remember that.
And don't forget the mouth. And be like, I know what a monkey looks like.
And then it's really funny because like that's how I was as a kid, and then I grew up and we painted,
And you're exactly the same.
and we painted a diving
Yeah,
board
yeah.
together, and the
That
whole time I
was-
was
That
Yeah.
was such
It's
a
like,
fun
your lines are
thing
choppy.
to just witness.
Yeah. And then, what was that dog's name?
Lucky,
Was it Lucky? The white shitty
Holly
dog.
Molly.
Maybe. No, I think it was Lucky.
Lucky, I had two. The first one was a girl dog,
Yeah.
and she was white, and she had a little blue collar, and her name was Holly Molly because I couldn't choose if I wanted to name her Holly or if I wanted to name her Molly.
Okay.
And
I
then
think it was Lucky
Lucky,
because it was a short name.
yeah, Lucky was like he still exists, by the way. I still have him.
Yeah.
He's
Disgusting.
don't tell him I said this. He's fucking dude.
He's seen
He's-
better days.
And
Yes.
so we were this is fun telling kids stories. We were coloring, and you're like, Lucky likes to do this, and Lucky likes to do this, and Lucky likes to do that. Lucky.
Yeah. I'm like, how about Lucky colors? He can't. He doesn't have opposable thumbs. And I'm like,
What else does Lucky want to do? I'm like, shit, you got me.
Yeah.
All right.
There's I I meant to bring this up earlier in the episode, and then I forgot. But I think it's really interesting because you were talking about how like all artists are really similar and that like inspired you for the podcast or blah 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 blah. That's what you
mean
said.
like what this was supposed to be about? Go on.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting because one of my friends, I don't know, this kid
Acquaintance.
I know. Yeah, this acquaintance I have. I can't remember if he showed me or if he like posted sketches from his dad's sketchbook.
Yeah.
And they look exactly like how he like draws or drew in like middle school.
Yeah.
And because I'm stupid, I was like, do you inherit your artistic abilities? And then I stopped for like 0.2 seconds. I was like, no, he just grew up watching his dad draw. And then I think about that because like there's sometimes, a lot of times, I'll like send you things.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, shit, you're my kid, because it looks like how like you used to draw or whatever.
You very much have my sense of humor. Like, probably not gonna be a best thing for you.
Oh, I already
Getting
know
older.
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just think it's interesting how kids like, because they grow up watching at least kids with artist parents, they grow up watching their parents draw, and then they just end up drawing like their parents. I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Do you want to end on a Liam story? Since I told a Zoe story.
Yeah.
Two?
Do you have a
Okay.
Leland story?
I'm pretty sure neither one of you have heard this before.
I don't know. You've still us a
I
lot of
definitely
stories.
haven't told you this story before.
Okay.
Liam was, let's say maybe 4.
Mm-hmm.
You were alive, but not mobile.
Because we're 2 years apart, so I'd be 2.
Yeah. Maybe you weren't. Maybe you were 3.
Works.
No, I'm just trying to remember. I don't remember the exact year. He was young, but verbal.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe 4. Maybe you were 2. And like I love movies. I love behind the scenes, making ofs, whatever.
So does he.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had gotten this DVD about special effects makeup, and it was plaster casting and making masks. I'm like, cool. And it wasn't in like a linear structure. Like it was like each type was a different file that you watched. So there was like one that was like mask, open-eyed mask, teeth, full body, hands. And there was one that was labeled pregnancy. And I'm like, well, that just seems weird. And your mom's like, oh, no, I've seen people get like their stomachs cast in plaster and then they paint them or whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah,
weird.
I think that's a thing.
I'm sure it is. Hippies.
I don't listen. I don't
Yeah.
know why, but
So I'm watching it sort of in order. And they're like putting the plaster mask on the guy's face. Liam comes running in the room. I was like laying in bed. He's like, Daddy, what are they doing? I'm like, they're making a mask of that guy. Why? And I'm like, well, if they're going to make a alien or monster movie, they use that mask to make the alien or monster mask to fit that guy for the movie. Oh. He kind of asks a couple of questions and he fucking runs off and plays. And then they get to the pregnancy part and they're casting like from the woman's neck to the woman's stomach. Liam comes running back in. Daddy, what are they doing? And I'm like, they're making a mask of that woman's belly. Why? I'm like, well, when she's not pregnant anymore, she can look back and be like, oh yeah, I remember what it was like to be pregnant. He's like, oh. So he's kind of like watching and asking a couple questions, and they're like pulling the mold off. And he's like, I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see. There's the boob. And I go, buddy. And he goes, what, Daddy? I like boobs, and they like me.
oh my god,
Mom's
Mom
told me
says
that,
that all
it's
the
a very
time.
different way. Mom
It
says I
was hysterical.
Mom says that, but she says when she says that I said that, I was like sitting on the couch or something, just doing whatever, and like MTV was on or whatever, and like a music whatever was on the TV.
No,
And then
it was-
out of nowhere, I was like,
Oh no, it was
Not out of nowhere.
When she tells the story,
Yeah.
she tells it like Liam was completely unprompted. And he just
like
said
I wasn't saying anything, and I was like, Mommy, I like boobies, and boobies like me.
Yeah. She
That was
says
not unprompted.
she tells that story. I'm so glad we have context
Yeah,
to it because
well,
she tells that all
That
the
story
time.
is so much better.
I'm not saying that your mom's memory isn't awesome. But there was the day that I walked by the living room and you hear Liam in the living room going, "Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me?" That was a funny day.
That was funny.
Yeah.
He
You guys are
still
pretty
does
funny.
that.
I know. I rock him to sleep.
All right,
Okay.
wrap it up.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening for 400 episodes.
We love you.
Yes.
We do love our listeners, and hopefully we'll do 400 more.
Mhm.
Yes.
And then
Episode
maybe,
800, I'll bring these knuckle sandwiches.
Knuckleheads.
Knuckleheads. That's what I was trying to.
Dude, can't even.
I was
salt
gonna
us
say
correctly.
knuckleheads, and it just didn't come out right.
You should have a episode.
Offspring V3 episode 800.
You should have another episode with us.
just cuz.
just because
just
every once in a while I
'cause,
get
like-
bored.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because this is fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
You
know.
should-
Podcasting's super fun,
You should
It
interview.
especially when we have 900 pizzas.
Listen, I didn't know that you were gonna get.
It was very
pizza.
sweet. Shout out to Zoe for bringing us pizza, even though it was already here.
I didn't know you were gonna bring us pizza, and I was hungry, and I didn't want to show up with just a pizza for me.
Kind of sames, man.
But you know what this means?
What?
Liam gets to take home an entire large pepperoni
I was gonna
pizza.
say I have plenty of lunch for the next couple days here.
Yeah.
So cool.
I told Liam if you didn't want it, he could have it. 'Cause I'm not gonna eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I don't feel like people need to know that.
Okay.
Fish can
Whatever.
edit this part out.
I don't know. If you
Everyone say bye to fish.
Bye, fish.
Bye,
Bye,
fish. We love
Bitch.
you, fish.
And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at inebriart.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at inebriart.com. So thanks again for listening.